Okay, you can see where I'm at this point. I have taken this first and second piece and put them down. You can see my overlap a little bit in there. Clearly the center hasn't been rolled in, but I've been working them from the center out. And the reason we're doing it in 3 pieces is to keep the potato chip taco effect out of this thing. So when you work them like this and you work each piece from the center out, you don't get the shrinkage of this material across the whole span, which causes it to turn up like a Pringle. So again, this is the last piece, and what I will do is start in the center like this. Say my iron looks like it's turned up to around 325. There you go. And then you want to go around the perimeter, cook it down. I didn't paint these elevons because one nice thing about laminating film in the elevons is when you're done, that a good plastic paint actually paints this stuff up pretty nice. So you could paint it with Plastidip prior. If you want to Plastidip these and then laminate them, I don't suggest painting them with paint. But if you want to shoot them with Plastidip prior to doing this, it's a good thing. I do that on some of them too. But sometimes I'll go ahead and paint the laminating film after it's already laminated on the elevons, just because it makes it pretty easy. The laminating film sticks to this stuff pretty darn good. So I'm gonna go ahead and trim some reliefs in this, and we'll fold it over. Okay, you can see where I've done the bottom, and I tell you what, this thing is it's crazy stiff now that we've laminated the bottom of it. Have it overlap, so it's going to overlap onto the top. Now I'm going to go ahead, and you can see where I've cut all the reliefs. I'm going to go ahead and roll these over onto the top with the hot iron here. So I'll do that process, get them rolled over and rolled onto the top, and then we're going to go ahead and laminate again 3 pieces on here, 1, 2, and 3, and we'll do the exact same thing, and we're going to laminate it over onto the bottom. So wrapping these edges, laminating it like this makes it super strong. And then once all of that's done, and the reason we have this taped together is to make this true, once that's all done, it really locks these things into a very super stiff state. Everything around the edges is doubled up, and then you trim out the center right down the middle with a straight edge and a very sharp razor, and then you trim the middle and you roll that in, and these things are like machetes after that. That weigh nothing. I've taken the edges and flipped them up where they're sealed. What I've done is taken it around the edge of the table, and I've used my iron to roll, basically take my iron and use it to roll the edges up all the way around, and then come to the end and then roll them all up. So now I'm going to keep on going, and I'm going to go ahead and roll these over the rest of the way, cutting reliefs where I need them. Anywhere that it might be touching and trying to overlap wrong, I'll go ahead and cut them and relief them. Okay, I've rolled the edges over onto the top, so you can see, nice, all the way around. Again, this thing is crazy stiff. I'm going to go ahead and do the top in the 3 pieces, just like I did the bottom. And then we will wrap the edges onto the bottom, just like we did the top. When I'm putting the laminating film on the top, knowing this is the flattest part now, I've done it in 3 pieces. I'm about halfway through the middle. And one thing you don't want to do is trying to hold this flat while you're doing it. Let the iron rock the EPP to either side of the table. It doesn't really matter. You don't want to fight it, because if you're trying to hold it level while you're doing it, you're just going to distort it. So I've been starting in the center of each piece and working my way out. I got to about here, and then I stopped at the joint, and I worked this piece out, and now I'm going to this last piece, and I'm starting in the very middle of it, and I'm working my way onto the one, and onto the other, and I'm working my way from the middle out, trying to keep the shrinkage and the distortion down. And as I'm going on to the next piece, I'm lifting the edge of my iron up a little bit as I'm going on to it to help pre-shrink some of it as I'm getting to it. And then cook it down. Again, I'm not holding it with my left hand trying to go over this. I'm letting the iron go ahead and push down on the film and tilt the EPP around. So now I'm going to go ahead and cook the edges down all the way around so it seizes down onto the other film that's overlapped onto the top. All the way around. Okay, now I'm going to go ahead and cut some reliefs around the edges and then roll it up. Okay, I'll kind of show you how I'm rolling the edges here. I put a couple weights on there to help me. I'm usually using my left hand on there. So what I'll do is I'll hang this off the edge of the table, and then to roll these edges up. Okay, I need to cut a relief in the middle of that. Hold on. I will cut one relief right in the very middle of the apex here. I'll move it out a little bit. But I'll go through and just do this on all of it. Around the edges. Kind of warm the edge up and roll it up and on. So that's what you're going to want to do around the whole thing, is you're going to want to roll it up and on, and then you'll end up rolling it over. But I get it all rolled up on first around the edges, and then I'll go ahead and lock it in all the way around after. Okay, I have them fully laminated. What I've also done now, since they're fully laminated, I laid this straight edge right on the very center dividing line between them, because they're all laminated together, so we were able to get these straight when we built them. So now what I'm going to do is lay this down on here, tape this down so it's nice and straight on that straight edge, and then I'm going to take a razor and I'm going to slice that gap all the way down this whole thing. And once I do that, this will go ahead and allow me to break these apart, and then I'll do is I'll flip this to the other side, and then I'll make a nice same slice down the center there, and then I'm going to roll all that laminating film on with the iron again, and then I think I'm going to cap that whole edge again with some film around that edge. You can see I've cut that edge now. It's beautiful all the way across. Now it's a matter of flipping it over and cutting the other side. Okay, back to the elevons. You can see one of them turned out pretty straight. One of them I have a little bit of a bend in. This one actually turned out pretty straight, but say you did them and no matter what, you just couldn't get them straight. Well, there's pretty much an easy fix for that. So say you did them, you didn't get them straight, you were going to wrap that trailing or the leading edge of that elevon, and you just keep looking at it and it just is, it's crooked. So what I've done is I've laid a little bit of tape on this and kind of made it so it's like a sticky back by rolling it a little bit, and then you can lay the straight edge right on the straight edge and just lay it on the straight trailing edge, or the crooked trailing edge I should say, and you can see how this one's a little crooked. It's got a little bit of space here, but through the middle it's a little bit bigger. You know, you are going to tape it to the trailing edge of the plane, so the plane is going to pull it up pretty tight, but if you want to go ahead and give it a good straightening, you go ahead and do something like this. Lay this down on there, a really nice straight edge. Get yourself a brand new snap razor out of the package. Now I have my straight edge laying on the Elevon, I'm going to go ahead and give it a trim. This is what I usually do with the wood Elevons to make the edges of them true, because a lot of times the wood, again, too, doesn't come from the factory. So you could use this same type of process on the wood Elevons if you get the wood Elevons, if you want to really make the trailing edges of your wood Elevons nice and true. So lay your straight edge on there. Hold your angle. Got a little bit of a bevel on it. And try to do it like one nice linear stroke. And what you did is you trimmed off the area that was a little less true than you desired. Now that edge is sharp and straight. And now you can go ahead and run your, I mean, I didn't cut anything off, but barely, if that's not even barely over a 1/16 of an inch or so. And now you can take this trailing edge of this and you can wrap it with laminating film, or wrap it with your hinge tape and then tape it onto the plane, because now it'll go right on the back of the plane very nicely, and it's nice and straight. So when you hold it up to the back of the plane, actually, let's go to the other side. You can see there's not really any gap all the way down it. So, and then when you do tape it to it, you also pull it towards it a little bit. But the thing is very, very, very torsionally stiff now and rigid. So go ahead and you can go ahead and do that and tape it on with your hinge tape. You might want to run your iron over it once real quick just to make sure the edges are down. But I'm going to wrap this with a little bit more of your laminating film just to seal up that trailing edge, and we got a perfect Elevon there. So if you do make it and all else fails and you don't get it straight and you're irritated, you can go ahead and get a nice straight edge. Again, lay it on top of here. Boom. Once you lay it on top, trim it. Just use a nice sharp razor. It works really, really good. So you have a way to fix it if something's going wrong.